I was in disbelief when a humble delivery girl saved a millionaire from a heartbreaking mistake. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other Monday morning, the sun just peeking through the blinds, casting stripes of warm light across my cluttered kitchen. I was drowning in bills, my hands trembling as I opened each envelope like a soldier preparing for battle. The weight on my chest felt heavier than the world itself. That day, I had to deliver a package to Whitmore Towers, the tallest building in the city where the rich flaunted their wealth like shiny toys. I had seen the place from a distance, its glass exterior reflecting the hustle below. The doormen wore crisp suits, their expressions stony. I felt small, like a leaf caught in a storm. But I pushed through, gripping the package tight, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. When I finally entered the lobby, I was met with whispers and stares. Beautiful people in tailored clothes brushed past me, their laughter echoing. I felt invisible amid that glamour. Yet my job was simple. Deliver the package. Get paid. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the nervous chill creeping up my spine, but as I stood there, waiting for the elevator, I spotted him. Nathaniel Graves, the billionaire who owned half the city. He was striking, with dark waves of hair and a presence that commanded silence. I remembered reading about him, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the riches. Just then, as I was about to step onto the elevator, chaos erupted. A woman, tall and elegant, burst through the entrance like a tempest. She was frantic, desperation etched on her face. My heart raced. Her eyes darted around, a wild animal searching for safety. "Nathan!" she shouted, her voice breaking like glass. I turned, just as Nathaniel caught sight of her. The moment stretch time slowed. Then it happened. He dropped the package I was holding as if it were burning. The world shifted. I caught a glimpse of what was inside a box of delicate, precious jewelry, a vintage necklace worth millions. She raced forward, but I instinctively reached out, my hands trembling. "Stop!" I yelled, the panic spilling out. "You can't," and in that instant, everything froze. Whispers turned to gasps. Eyes widened in shock. $1 million mistake was about to unfold before us, two worlds colliding, one destined for heartbreak. I could feel my heart pounding, the room spinning. What came next? Would I be a hero or a fool? I didn't know. I only knew the stakes were impossibly high and that my next move could change everything. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moment hung in the air like a suspended breath, and I could feel the eyes of everyone in the lobby boring into me. I stood there, frozen, as the tension crackled around us. Nathaniel's dark eyes flicked between the woman and me, disbelief morphing into something more desperate. The woman, whose name I would soon learn was Celeste, seemed to realize the intense stranglehold of the situation. She halted, her expression shifting from madness to something like fear. "What do you mean, stop?" she began, her voice quivering. "That's mine. It's my last chance." I felt my heart ache for her, echoing the pain I had bottled up in my own chest these past few months. Just a delivery girl standing before this spectacle, but for one fervent second, I was wielding power. "You can't just grab it. Do you understand that?" I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Think about what you're doing. It's a mistake." Nathaniel's gaze locked onto mine, perhaps sensing the turmoil being mirrored in my own expression. I barely held it together, sweat dampening the palms that still clutched the package. I can handle this," he said, his voice low and commanding. "Just give it to me." I hesitated, watching as Celeste took a step forward, her fingers curling as if reaching for something I couldn't offer. "Please, Nathan. You don't understand. I need that necklace." The silence that followed was deeper than words could express. Emotion ricocheted off the high ceilings of the lobby, wrapping around us like an invisible chain. "I can fix this, Celeste," Nathaniel said, though his voice held a tightness that hinted at uncertainty. My heart twisted at the vulnerability breaking through the layers of his polished exterior. "I don't want fixing," she cried out, tears glistening in her desperate eyes. "I just want you back." That was a promise. I turned the package over in my hands, the weight of it growing heavier, a cruel reminder of broken promises and shattered dreams, things I was all too familiar with. The tension in the room was suffocating, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the urge to just let it go, to slip away into the bustling city outside. But another part of Meth Part that had fought so hard against the currents of life refused to give in. "You can't let this ruin your life," I managed, my voice cracking slightly. "Please, think before you act," the chatter of the lobby resumed, whispers tangling into a muted chorus of judgment and curiosity. I felt the eyes on me change, some filled with admiration and others with disdain. I was a part of Tisan, intricate knot in a story I never intended to weave myself into. Just as the air thickened with silence again, a soft hand brushed against my shoulder. Startled, I turned to see an older woman, her silver hair tied back, and a kind smile upon her face. "You did well, dear," she whispered, almost soothingly. "Sometimes, standing your ground is the bravest thing you can do." Her words washed over me like a bomb, sparking warmth in the midst of the chaos. I realized that kindness often comes from unexpected places. As if to flip the script, another bystander chided, "What does a delivery girl know about relationships anyway?" My breath caught in my throat, the doubts creeping back in, but the elderly woman's eyes held my gaze steady. I knew deep down we all have our struggles, the wealth we chase or the heartbreak we carry. Maybe my role was insignificant in their grand scheme, yet I felt an unmistakable bond binding us together, whether we wanted it or not. "Nathaniel," I said, finally, my voice steady. "We can't live like this. Not so afraid to lose each other that we forget how to simply be." He regarded me then, a spark of something I couldn't quite place igniting behind his eyes. "What do you know about loss?" he asked, vulnerability lacing his tone. And in that instant, the world around us blurred. I was no longer merely a delivery girl. I was a vessel of truth, born from my own hidden struggles and heartaches. "Everything," I replied, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "But we can't run away from love. It's too precious to waste." Nathaniel's face shifted, a mix of confusion and something softer simmering beneath the surface. I could see the walls around him begin to crack, the illustrious armor he wore starting to slip. But just as I thought we'd found a common ground, Celeste stepped forward once more, her voice trembling. "Wait, Nathaniel, I found something else. I don't know how to explain it," but her breath hitched, and the room went silent once again, the promise of some hidden truth lurking in her words. The ground felt shaky beneath me as I braced for what was next. Something within me surged at the prospect of whatever chaos was about to unfurl. Would it lead to healing, or deepen the wounds already festering? All I knew was that something was about to change, and the shadows we'd been dancing around could either illuminate our path or lead us into deeper darkness. The lobby pulsed with a strange tension as Celeste continued to search for the words that would turn the tide. Her breath, labored and thick with emotion, seemed to capture the attention of everyone in the room. Nathaniel didn't move, he was as still as a statue, yet crumbling around the edges. I could see it, the fracture that was forming within him, and it fractured me in turn, feeling as if I were both the hero and the spectator in a tragedy unfolding. "Something else?" Nathaniel echoed, his voice almost a whisper, mirroring my confusion and curiosity. I wasn't entirely sure he was ready for whatever revelation lay ahead, but in that moment, the air shimmered with possibilities, and hope flickered, dimming then reigniting with each breath we took. "Yes." Celeste breathed, and tears streamed down her cheeks, glistening like broken glass under the harsh lights. A clue, a message. I thought it was nothing at first, but it means something. I found a box, Nathan, it has to do with that night. The mention of that night dredged up unspoken fears. Who was I to draw conclusions when I wasn't a constant in their lives? My insides twisted with empathy for Celeste and Nathaniel, feeling like an intruder in their heartache. Yet there was a whisper in me that urged me to stay, a demanding need to unravel the truth of this tangled web we found ourselves in. What happened that night? I asked, my voice steady yet tinged with trepidation. Their shared history felt heavy, like a chain anchoring us beneath the weight of regret and longing. Celeste pressed her lips together, visibly shaking. I didn't know if I should share it. Didn't want to hurt you more, Nathan. She paused. The room grew heavy with silence again, thick with unshed tears and held back words. I found myself holding my breath, desperate for more, yet terrified of what she might expose. Stop hiding, Nathaniel urged, the innocence clashing with the urgency in his tone. We can't keep walking around each other like ghosts, afraid of what we might stumble across. Please, Celeste, her resolve faltered in his gaze, and with trembling hands, she pulled out an ornate wooden box. This, she whispered, revealing it to us, her fingers delicately tracing the carvings on the surface as if they were lifelines. I didn't want to open it, but I remembered it was left behind that night. In the chaos, we lost track of it. Nathaniel's eyes widened, a dawn of memory breaking through the fog. It was ours? I thought you'd tossed everything, thought you wanted to move away from it all. I did. I thought it was best, she choked out. But when I was cleaning out the attic, it just appeared. Nathan, it carries something from that night. Something we need to face. The weight of that statement slammed into me, raising a new wave of intensity. Laws of attraction intertwined with fear and longing in a dance too intricate for me to grasp, and yet I felt compelled to stand between them as they nestled on the precipice of deeper wounds. I can help you, both of you, I said, startling myself at my own insistence. What made me think I could bridge the gaping chasm their history created? But the need to heal hadn't just taken root in them, it had merged into a unified yearning within me. No, Celeste replied, shaken but defiant. This isn't for you to figure out. Why not? My voice echoed too loudly in the silence, desperation threading through my tone. You both need to confront this. Moment stretched into lifetimes. Nathaniel stood with his fists clenched at his sides, distant pain flickering in his dark eyes. What if it only opens new wounds? He said quietly. It might, I admitted. But sometimes, the only way out is through. We've all been scarred, yet it makes us who we are. Celeste's breath hitched again as her gaze darted between us, uncertainty mingling with a fragile desperation. And what if it tears us apart even further? Then we deal with it together, I replied, feeling the tiny flicker of hope start to waver. Nothing can grow in silence and shadow your love, your grief, they deserve to be named. In that moment, something shifted. The air inside the lobby crackled, and a fraying dust moted the afternoon light. The elderly woman who had comforted me earlier stepped slightly closer, her eyes glimmering with a wisdom that seemed to bind us all. She held up her own hands as if to bless an unfolding story, a witness to the power of love, pain, and growth. Before Celeste could respond, Nathaniel stepped forward, that flicker in his eyes morphing into something more intense. I need to see it, to know what we buried. Celeste feared the prospect, the relief and trepidation swirling around them like a cyclone. But what if it leads to nothing? What if it shatters everything? No more what ifs, he said fiercely, his gaze unwavering. The sincerity was raw and palpable, a conduit moving with currents I couldn't ignore. The moment was ripe with possibility, and yet I sensed the storm brewing on the horizon, a chaotic energy ready to disrupt any flickering light we had clung to. The thrum of the room fell silent again, the struggle pushing against the fragile veneer of hope we found ourselves building. I clutched my breath as Nathaniel reached for the box, experiencing the world collectively holding its breath. As the lid creaked open, shadows danced in the corners of the lobby, and I felt the ground shift beneath us. The unknown newly unveiled could either salvage lives, or leave us scrambling in ruins. That certainty faded in the flick of a moment, making space for questions without answers, and it left us hanging on a fragile thread. The box's lid creaked as Nathaniel lifted it slowly, revealing a collection of brittle photographs and letters tied together with a frayed ribbon. The sight sent a tremor through Celeste, her hand instinctively reaching toward her heart, as if to shield herself from the flood of memories that threatened to wash over her. I could feel the air thicken with anticipation and dread, the fabric of the moment taut like a bowstring. As Nathaniel's fingers brushed across the surface of the photographs, a sharp intake of breath made me glance back at Celeste. "Do you really want to do this? To see what we were?" she whispered, her voice a delicate quiver as fragile as the letters before us. "That I need to," Nathaniel replied, his voice tempered with a resolve that belied the vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "We can't stay stuck in what happened, Celeste. We can't keep living as if we're haunted by shadows." "But the ghosts are real," Celeste countered softly, a tremor in her voice revealing the depth of her fear. "We're not just unraveling memories. We're digging up wounds that may never heal." Just then, the elderly woman who had lingered in the background gently approached. Her expression echoed a lifetime of losses and the wisdom carved from them. "The past can often feel like a weight. But sometimes, it's only in remembering that we can release what binds us," she said, the comfort in her voice a balm against their rising anxiety. Nathaniel's eyes met mine, and in that brief silence, I understood the silent plea within his gaze. Life can be both beautiful and painful. We owe it to ourselves to confront not just the love we shared, but the truth of what we've endured. With an almost reverent care, he pulled out the first photograph, faded yet vibrant, a moment captured of Celeste and Nathaniel at a summer fair, light spilling around them like laughter. A flicker of joy appeared on Celeste's face, her lips parting as time held its breath. But that flicker quickly faded, replaced by the shadows of what followed. Nathaniel's gaze sharpened. This was real. We were real. "We can't forget that," he said, the intensity in his voice like thunder rumbling before a storm. "But we can't live in the past either." The old woman remained nearby, a constant presence as nurturing as the winds that grazed through an open meadow. She gave a nod toward the box. "Sometimes kindness can come from unexpected places, even from within ourselves," she encouraged, her eyes tracing the patterns of emotion that flooded Celeste and Nathaniel. Celeste hesitated, her breath trembling beneath the weight of anticipation and fear. "What if we uncover something we're not ready for?" she whispered, as Nathaniel reached for another photograph. But Nathaniel, resolute, presented the next image, a snapshot of a dimly lit room. Laughter caught mid-echo, and in the corner, the contours of a young girl with messy hair and a bright smile, untethered and just as lost as they felt now. "Who is this?" Celeste asked, her voice breaking as she recognized the figure. It was the girl. The girl they had both cherished and mourned. The girl who was gone and yet lingered in every choice they had made since that night. And in that moment, I felt the collective weight of their grief and something else, something far deeper entwined with their shared past. They had lost not just her but fragments of themselves along the way. Memories splintered at misunderstandings and the ripping apart of what once held them together. "What if we were wrong?" Nathaniel murmured, holding the photograph close as if it could reverse time. "What if I never embraced you in the way you needed? What if I wasn't strong enough to protect you?" His voice wavered, revealing the cracks in his armor. "Stop it. Don't you dare put this on yourself," Celeste shouted, and in her voice, I heard years of hidden pain unleash. "We both made mistakes, Nathan. I was just as lost. We thought moving on meant leaving aspects of ourselves behind. But we were wrong." The tension escalated and I sensed the fragile tapestry of hope we had woven starting to fray, unraveling with the weight of their truths. Then, as if beyond their control, the ribbon binding the letters slipped from Nathaniel's fingers, scattering them across the floor like petals caught in a tempest. Each letter that landed seemed to whisper of secrets we were yet to understand. Before I could react, a voice broke in from the other side of the lobby, sharp and jarring. cutting through our moment. What's going on here? The newcomer stepped in, a man dressed in a sharp suit, his charm inadequate to mask the disdain in his expression. Nathaniel, you're embarrassing yourself digging through old keepsakes when you should be planning your future. Don't you dare. Celeste's anger flared, igniting the dormant fire that had long been suppressed. I could see the struggle of her emotions surfacing, a defensive reflex battling the undeniable pain that glimmered in her gaze. As the confrontation unfolded, I stood frozen, the weight of this unexpected arrival crashing into the fragile hope we had been nurturing. I could sense the tumult brewing among the three of them, a storm ready to erupt, and I didn't know if we could weather the aftermath. And as Celeste clenched her fists in defiance, reeling from the weight of the moment, a sudden realization hit me. This man, as poised as he seemed, was the stranger in the shadow, could unravel everything we had fought to protect, but what more would be revealed before the end? What truths would emerge as the layers of grief peeled back, exposing scars that begged to be understood? The moment hung precariously, teetering somewhere between hope and despair, and I couldn't shake the unshakable feeling that the truth would not only set them free but shatter their existence. Nathaniel's back stiffened, and his resolve faltered as the man in the suit stepped forward, each word dripping with condescension. You've spent enough time dwelling in the past, Nathan. It's time to move on, move on. Celeste shot back, her voice trembling but fierce. You think you know what we've lost? You have no idea what it feels like to carry that weight. She took a step towards him, eyes ignited with raw emotion. I could see weeks, months, and years of pent-up frustration breaking through the surface, demanding to be acknowledged, the man's brows furrowed in irritation at her defiance. I'm not here to discuss your dramatics, Celeste, he retorted, crossing his arms over his tailored suit. Nathaniel has a promising future ahead. Don't you have some dignity to think of? The air crackled with tension, and Nathaniel's silence was deafening. I wondered if he felt as though the ground beneath him was shifting, threatening to swallow him whole. The photographs were scattered around us, each one a remnant of his past, but here stood a man threatening to reshape his future, to redefine everything he had once known. What's your name? Celeste demanded, voice quaking slightly. Daniel, he replied, a smug smile playing on his lips. And I'm here to remind him what he's wasting time on. You can't live in these memories forever. They'll never bring her back. The mention of her stung, slicing through the emotions that had just begun to settle. Nathaniel's gaze dropped to the floor, the shame radiating off him palpable. In that moment of vulnerability, I almost reached out to comfort him but stayed rooted in place, feeling the weight of the moment building like a rising tide. Maybe she wouldn't want him to forget, I ventured quietly, my voice barely above a whisper, trying to soften the harshness that hung in the air like a bitter frost. Maybe she'd want him to remember the joy she gave him, alongside the pain. Daniel's expression soured at that. You're just enabling the drama, he scoffed, turning back to Nathaniel. You're better than this, Nathan. You have responsibilities now. Responsibilities? Celeste interrupted, her fists balled tight at her sides. What good are responsibilities if he's drowning in regret? If he's haunted by a past that, let's face it, he has every right to mourn? You think glossing over the hurt will make him a better man? Nathaniel's eyes darted between them, trapped in a whirlwind. I could see the storm brewing within him, the turmoil of wanting to break free of the past while still yearning to honor it. Just as the moment spiraled into chaos, he took a step forward, his voice interjecting. Stop. Both of you. The unexpected authority in his tone silenced them immediately, pulling the room taut. Daniel, I don't need your approval to remember what I've lived through. It's my life, not a business transaction. The edge in Nathaniel's voice surprised even me, cutting through the fog of uncertainty. Perhaps a flicker of old strength was stirring within him, daring to confront the emerging shadows rather than continuing to flee. Daniel's anger flickered, but he quickly masked it with a veneer of professionalism. Fine. But don't be surprised when you find yourself at the bottom of the pile with such weight holding you down. I'd rather carry this weight than forget, Nathaniel declared, finally lifting his chin with renewed determination. These memories are part of me, and shutting them away won't erase the love I had or the lessons I've learned." Celeste reached for him then, her hand brushing against his as a small gesture of solidarity, but her eyes betrayed her tears shimmered in her gaze, a testament to the emotions they both struggled to express. From behind, the old woman watched, her expression a mix of sadness and understanding. Confronting your past can be like walking through a storm. Embrace it, and you may find light on the other side. Just then, an unexpected commotion erupted at the entrance. The lobby doors burst open, and in walked a young girl, no older than 10, holding an oversized bouquet of bright flowers. Her wide eyes darted around the room as if seeking something in the fading light. When she spotted Nathaniel, a smile broke out across her face, warm and innocent, a stark contrast to the encroaching darkness. "Daddy!" she shouted gleefully, rushing toward him with the kind of enthusiasm only a child untouched by life's jagged edges could possess. Everything came to a halt. Nathaniel's face shifted from confusion to a mixture of warmth and disbelief as he knelt down, the photographs and letters forgotten for a fleeting moment. "Lily?" he choked out, voice laden with a whirlwind of emotions. The little girl wrapped her arms around Nathaniel, joy exploding in a kaleidoscope of innocence, but the moment was sliced deep by the potential fractures it represented. Celeste's face fell, the sudden lift in the atmosphere quickly overshadowed by the weight of Nathaniel's new reality. Daniel's demeanor shifted too, realizing the vulnerable threads of the past were all too real and not easy to shake off. "Who is this?" Daniel asked sharply, his voice carrying an edge of accusation, taking a step back as if the revelation was an echo of his impending failure, perhaps a reminder of his own shortcomings. Nathaniel faltered, the joy of reunion overshadowed by the complexities weighing on him. The floodgate of emotions widened, and I sensed the storm that had passed now birthed new ones, brewing just beneath the surface. "Dad?" Lily's voice broke the silence, wide eyes questioning the tension surrounding them. "What's wrong? Are these people your friends?" It was a simple, innocent question, but it floated in the air like a thunderclap. The admission hung before us, heavy with unanswered questions. Who was this girl really, and how did she change everything? And as Nathaniel struggled to respond, the realization hit hard in the pit of my stomach. The illusions were cracking, and the fragile web they had spun was poised to unravel. Would this new revelation bring healing or deeper wounds? The storm was just getting started. Nathaniel's heart raced as he stared into Lily's innocent eyes, the world around him fading into a blur. The weight of her presence felt both comforting and terrifying, like being wrapped in a warm blanket while standing on the edge of a precipice. He could barely process the implications of her sudden arrival, the sheer reality of fatherhood crashing down upon him like a tidal wave, drowning out everything his mind had been wrestling with only moments before. Nathaniel stammered, trying to find his voice amidst the tumult within him. "I didn't expect to see you here." He reached out tentatively, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear, even as the questions in her wide eyes made him feel as though he had been caught in a net of his own creation. Daniel's demeanor shifted sharply as he assessed the situation, his sharp gaze flicking between Nathaniel and Lily. "What's going on here?" he demanded, this time devoid of his earlier condescension. "Where did she come from?" "She's my daughter," Nathaniel whispered, the truth tasting both liberating and suffocating on his tongue. "I was when we lost." The seismic shift of emotion threatened to unravel him again as painful memories filled the void, but he pressed on, unwilling to allow the past to dictate the present any longer. "I was swept away in my own grief. I didn't know how to come back. But I'm here now, Lily. I'm here." Her small hand squeezed his tightly, her enthusiasm infectious yet laden with questions he wasn't ready to answer. "You look sad, Dad. You need to smile." She took a step back, her innocence gleaming like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "I brought you flowers. I wanted to surprise you." As she raised the bouquet, the vibrant colors burst into view, a charming amalgamation of daisies and sunflowers, their brightness cutting through the tension like fragile rays piercing darkened skies. The scent wafted up, and Nathaniel inhaled as if it could somehow fortify him against the chaos swirling around them. Daniel, still reeling from the revelation, shifted his stance. "This changes nothing, Nathan. You think you can just play house and forget your responsibilities? Even amidst his disbelief, a hint of fear crackled beneath Daniel's authoritative facade. No, Nathaniel replied, feeling a shift within him, a quiet yet powerful resolve stirring in the depths of his heart. It changes everything. I want to be the father this girl deserves. I can't let my past dictate my future. Celeste stood frozen, her emotional turmoil mirrored in her glassy eyes, as she grappled silently with her own heartbreak. She had fought for Nathaniel, believing in the strength that lived within him, yet in that moment, she felt like a bystander in a drama that was quickly rewriting the script. Lily, she finally managed, her voice a gentle breeze cutting through the storm, why don't we sit down for a little bit and let your dad talk? She offered a warmth that felt like a beacon, pulling them back from the brink of despair. But before Lily could respond, a flicker of confusion crossed her brow. Will my friends be okay? They were with me, what? Nathaniel asked, his breath hitching. A chill settled in his chest, igniting the candle of dread that had flickered out momentarily. What friends? There was a little boy named Ben, and a girl named Mia. They came to help me bring the flowers, Lily explained, her words quick and anxious. They were just scared. They think you're sad because you don't love me. The silence that followed her declaration haunted the air, thick with the manifestation of every unresolved question. Nathaniel felt the world spinning again, this time under the weight of guilt and the fear of not being enough, of being painted in colors darker than he had ever wished to wear. We were just playing hide and seek, Lily continued, unaware of the growing tension. But now I don't want them to be scared. Can we go find them? Nathaniel's world collided with the urgent reality of her plea. Lily, wait, but Celeste stepped forward, her expression shifting from shock to recognition. Where were you playing? Maybe we can all go together. Lily's face brightened, her innocence a soft glow in the growing shadows of Nathaniel's doubt. By the old park. Near the swings, suddenly, the air filled with uncertainty, and Daniel's voice erupted again, sharper this time. No, this is ridiculous. You want to toss aside everything for a few children? Stop. Nathaniel shot back, a newfound strength igniting in his voice. It's not about tossing aside anything, Daniel. They're a part of my world now, and I have to face what I've been running from. I owe it to Lily, and I owe it to myself. I'll come too, if you want, Celeste offered, her eyes locked onto Nathaniel's, solid and determined as if she was saying that he didn't have to bear this storm alone. A single tear slipped down his cheek, mingling with the remnants of a lifetime of hurt and disbelief. In this moment, he felt something deeper than fear, a flicker of hope ignited by the willingness of those around him to stand firm against the churning uncertainty. Let's go find your friends then, he finally said, his voice steadier than it had been in weeks. His heart hammered in his chest, aware of the chasm between reality and the ideal life he never managed to create. But he could no longer hide. They stepped toward the door as a unit, each heartbeat strengthening the bond between them, yet as they moved toward the exit, Nathaniel's heart skipped at the sight of a familiar figure standing alone, outside in the park's embracing shadows. It was the old woman from earlier, her eyes deep with knowing. Beware the past, dear boy, she called softly, her voice drifting like a whisper on the wind. It has a way of chasing you if you're not careful. He froze, the words wrapping around him as the weight of her warning pressed down like thunder rumbling through the air. As he pushed the door open, the world outside transformed into a brighter tapestry, yet tinged with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Would they find Lily's friends, or would the threads of the past entwine them once more before he could fully reclaim the present? As if in answer, a distant sound echoed through the air, the unmistakable laughter of children mixed with the wayward wind, hinting at all the secrets yet to be uncovered. And in that moment, standing on the threshold of countless possibilities, he stepped forward, heart pounding, every choice fraught with both dread and an exhilarating promise of discovery. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the park, as Nathaniel, Celeste, and Lily stepped outside. The air felt electric, filled with the murmurs of nature mingling with echoes of laughter from nearby children. It was both intoxicating and jarring, reigniting a world he had at once cherished and feared. Lily tugged on Nathaniel's hand, her small grip filled with unwavering trust. "Do you think they'll be all right?" she asked, anxiousness bubbling in her voice, her eyes scanning the playground for signs of her friends. "Of course," Nathaniel replied, desperate to instill confidence that he himself didn't quite feel. He longed to shield her from the realities of life, yet here they were, stepping into the unknown together. "Let's check the swings first." They could be playing there, but as they approached the swings, the laughter began to wane, replaced by a heavy silence. A pit formed in Nathaniel's stomach, and he exchanged quick, concerned glances with Celeste, who seemed to share his growing unease. They searched the park, calling out for the kids, their voices echoing against the backdrop of thickening shadows. Each unanswered call tightened the knot of anxiety swelling in Nathaniel's chest. "Mommy!" A voice suddenly broke through the stillness, but it came from a distance. Before he could register what was happening, a frantic Lily tore away from him, her small frame darting toward the sound. "Ben! Mia!" she screamed, her joy clashing sharply with the weight of Nathaniel's fears as he watched her disappear into the thicket of trees. "Lily, wait!" Nathaniel called out, dread lacing his tone, but she was too far gone. "Let's go," Celeste urged, her voice steady as she grabbed his arm to restrain the panic that threatened to spill over. "Well, catch up with her. She'll be all right." But even as she said it, Nathaniel could see the fear mirrored in her eyes. They pushed through the trees, branches clawing at their clothes as they stumbled deeper into the woods. The sounds of laughter faded further until it was just a distant memory, a cruel mockery of their earlier optimism. What if they got scared and ran away? Nathaniel's voice cracked, the nightmare of parental responsibility looming large. What if something happened? "Nothing has happened yet," Celeste said, her grip tightening around his arm. "We can't lose hope. Don't you dare go there." But Nathaniel felt the weight of his past crashing down again, threatening to suffocate him beneath layers of regret and self-doubt. Wasn't he the one who had run away, the coward too afraid to embrace what he had lost? What if Lily saw him as he had seen himself, a man haunted by choices and darkness? Just then, another sound broke through the tense Iona child's frantic sob, slicing through the air like ice. Nathaniel's heart plummeted, and he broke into a sprint, Celeste close on his heels. The cries led them further along the winding path, twisting and turning until they stumbled upon a clearing. Nathaniel froze as he laid eyes on a small group ahead. There were Lily, Ben, and Mia all huddled together near a fallen log, fear written across their small faces. But just beyond them stood a shadowy figure, a man whose intimidating presence sent dread spiraling through Nathaniel like a charged stream. "Stay back!" Lily shouted, her voice small yet fierce. Behind her, Ben and Mia trembled but held their ground, bravery flickering in the depths of their bright eyes. "Who the hell are you?" Nathaniel's voice boomed as he stepped forward instinctively, anger flaring in response to the threat his daughter faced. The man turned, and Nathaniel's breath hitched in his throat. There was something alarmingly familiar about that sneer, the way the sunlight glinted off his hair. Recognition surged through him, followed by a cold wave of disbelief. It was Marcus, his estranged brother, a ghost he thought had been buried beneath the ruins of their shared past. "Why are you here?" Nathaniel demanded, the world falling away around him as the weight of their history pressed down on his chest. "This is not okay." Marcus' eyes danced with a wicked glee, glancing between Nathaniel and the children. "You made a mistake by running away, Nathaniel. This girl's just a reminder of everything you lost. Everything wrong with you. And now you've traded your adult responsibilities for a child's playdate?" He laughed coldly. "How pathetic." "Get away from them," Nathaniel growled. "You don't have a right to be here." But as Marcus took a step toward the kids, Lily bravely stood her ground in front of Ben and Mia, her small body protecting them as if she could absorb the darkness emanating from her uncle. "You can't have them," she declared, her voice trembling yet firm. "Lily, step back." Nathaniel shouted, panic slicing through him as he charged forward, empowered by the fierce instinct of a father protecting his child. But before he could reach them, Celeste lunged forward, her voice fierce as she shouted, "Leave them alone." The chaos of the moment ignited in Nathaniel's chest, a tempest of emotions swirling within him. He couldn't allow the past to touch this new chapter. He needed to break free from the chains that bound him, to prove that he could be better, and just as the confrontation reached its peak, a sharp sound cut through the air, a sudden snap of a branch, followed by a raspy voice calling into the fray. "Marcus! What are you doing?" The tension shifted as all heads turned to see a tall woman emerging from the trees, her expression stormy and resolute. Nathaniel thought he knew her, but the resemblance struck him like recognition of a long-lost truth. Who are you?" he stammered, the air heavy with uncertainty. "Mom," Marcus spat, his expression contorting into anger and fear. "You shouldn't be here." The woman's gaze pierced through the chaos, landing directly on Nathaniel, and in that instant, he understood. Here stood the one person with the power to unravel everything, the very embodiment of their shared past, designed to expose the fractures buried beneath years of denial. "What have you done?" she asked Marcus, her voice steady yet filled with disappointment, weaving the fabric of a family fractured by secrets. Suddenly, as though summoned by the specters of their entwined lives, the air filled with tension, thick with the weight of legacies unclaimed and desperate truths. And as all parties stood at the brink, each experience echoed like the final note of a haunting melody. What was to come next could change everything or shatter it all forever. In that charged silence, Nathaniel felt time slow, his heart racing as he searched for answers in the depths of uncertainty. Would he risk everything to protect the fragile bond he had only just grasped? He took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of hope intertwine with despair, bracing himself for the storm that was about to break. The air grew thick with an unspoken tension that buzzed with possibility, quaking like the branches overhead. Nathaniel's heart raced in tandem with the chaos swirling around him, caught in a tempest of undeniable emotion. There, at the center of it all, was Marcus, fingers curling into fists as he glared at their mother while Lily, Ben, and Mia huddled protectively behind her. "Mom, this is none of your business." Marcus growled, his voice breaking as if he was teetering on the precipice of a ruinous choice. "This is everything, Marcus," their mother replied, her voice steady yet pleading, as if trying to anchor her unruly son to the remnants of the family they had once known. "You're making a mistake. Look at what you're doing." Lily, emboldened by the confrontation, shot a glance back at Nathaniel, eyes wide and fierce. In that single heartbeat, Nathaniel could see the strength of the bond they shared, her trust woven deep into his very existence. She was not just defending her friends, she was proclaiming the strength of her love. As the silence stretched uncomfortably, Nathaniel could feel Celeste tighten her grip on his arm, a silent reminder that they were in this together, against all odds. He squeezed her hand in return, a tether of hope binding their resolve. "Don't let him twist this," she urged in a fierce whisper. "Remember why you are here. Remember why they need you." Struck by her words, Nathaniel took a step closer to Marcus, channeling his fear into courage. "You think you can come back here and make threats? You don't know what I've built since you decided to disappear. You have no power here." Something flickered across Marcus' expression, an unsettling mix of hurt and fury that seemed to crack his tough exterior like fragile glass. "You don't understand anything. Mom loved you more than me, and you just turned your back on us." "Don't drag them into this," Nathaniel shot back, ignoring the painful truth hidden in Marcus' accusation. "This is about you refusing to accept the past. None of this is Lily's fault." Before they could spiral further, another voice cut through the tension, the woman now emerging from the shadows. "Marcus, stop it. You have to face the truth. This is your chance to make a different choice." Her eyes, weary yet wise, fell upon Nathaniel as if drawing strength from him. The familiarity in her expression triggered a whirlwind of forgotten memories, and he opened his mouth, ready to ask the questions that had haunted him for years. But Marcus surged forward, fury igniting once more as if to drown out the truth their mother beckoned to share. "I am done with your lectures. Look how far you've fallen, Nate. You think you're some kind of hero now? Any strength you have is a lie, built on the back of someone else's misfortune. Stop! Lily shouted, her small form trembling with fierce determination. We don't want any of this. Just leave us alone, Lily, Ben said softly, trying to soothe her fear. But it only flared Marcus' anger further. With clenched fists, Nathaniel felt the real battle beginning. Marcus was a mirror of his own fears, the realization of a life unraveling, a legacy corrupted by bitterness. He had been so afraid of what Marcus represented that it had blinded him to the reality of what he was trying to protect. Look at your sister, their mother implored Marcus, motioning toward Lily. Do you want her to grow up in a world filled with anger? You'd be repeating the cycle. For a fleeting second, the fury faltered in Marcus' eyes, and Nathaniel seized that moment. Remember what it felt like to be a kid, Marcus? Remember our dreams? He stepped closer, vulnerability spilling forth. You don't have to do this. You can choose to be better. But Marcus shook his head, his eyes narrowing as if fighting against a weighty truth. You don't get it. You talk about being better, but you've never even tried to understand the pain. Tension crackled as silence enveloped them, broken only by the distant chirping of crickets. The shadows deepened around them, bearing witness to the moment they all teetered at the edge of a new understanding. Enough! Their mother declared, breaking the spell. You both need to see that this fighting serves no one. Suddenly, Lily darted from behind their mother, looking at Marcus with wide, earnest eyes. What if? What if we all start again? We could be friends. Nathaniel felt a mix of pride for Lily's bravery and horror that she stood so close to Marcus, whose emotions churned like an angry sea. Don't you see? Marcus sneered, frustration wavering between hope and animosity. This isn't just about you, this is about us. There's no room for friendships when the scars are so deep. In that moment, something shifted, and Nathaniel felt the weight of the past pressing down on him, ready to crush him under its relentless burden. Marcus' words clung to him like a thick humidity, stifling and confounding. Could they truly fight back against the past and forge a new beginning? Lily's right, Celeste finally spoke, her voice cutting through the clutter of hurt and anger. We can't rewrite what happened, but we can choose how we move forward. We stand together. And with those words, a gentle spark ignited hope within the chaos. It felt fragile, like the first light of dawn breaking after the long night, yet still full of promise. But just as Nathaniel began to imagine the possibility of reconciliation, a crash echoed from the trees behind them, sending a jolt of fear through the clearing. Spinning around, Nathaniel's heart sank as a figure stumbled into view, drenched in shadows and desperation. Help! Please, I need help! A woman, pale and frantic, approached, fear etched in every feature as she looked at Marcus. Who are you? Nathaniel demanded, instinctively stepping in front of Lily as the new arrival drew nearer, eyes wide with panic. Stay back! Marcus shouted, and in that moment of volition, the reality they had just begun to navigate shifted once more. It was as though the universe had drawn a tight string around their fragile moment, ready to snap at any second. Nathaniel felt a fissure open in his chest as uncertainty gripped him anew. What fresh heartbreak was this? As secrets unspooled in the twilight, so did the sense of safety they had fought so fiercely to hold. The darkness swarmed as he braced himself against the storm, but now the stakes were higher than ever. In that harrowing night, it felt as if he teetered on the brink of the abyss, unsure if he had the strength to pull everyone back from the edge. The unyielding shadows lingered in the air, thickening around them as the woman took another trembling step forward. Nathaniel's heart raced, the urgency of the moment eclipsing the simmering conflict just moments before. Lily instinctively grabbed his shirt, her small fingers gripping tightly as though he could shield her from the rising unease. Please, the woman pleaded, her voice cracking like fragile glass. You have to listen. I didn't know if I'd be too late. Who are you? Marcus demanded again, eyes narrowing with a blend of suspicion and fear. Nathaniel could see the muscles in his brother's jaw twitch, a potent reminder of the agonized emotions roiling beneath the surface. I know about Dad," she stammered, finally managing to meet Marcus's intense stare. "I worked with him before everything fell apart." The revelation slashed through the air, a knife that cut deeper than any shared wound between the brothers. Marcus' expression hardened, and Nathaniel felt a surge of anxiety ripple through the group. "What do you mean? What do you know?" It appeared as if the earth had shifted beneath his feet. This woman was not merely a bystander, she was a link to the past wrapped in secrecy and sadness that they had all desperately tried to escape. "Your father left things unsaid," she continued, glancing nervously at their mother, who stood frozen in shock. "I came here because I thought you deserved to know. I didn't want you to live with any more regret." As she spoke, Nathaniel felt the weight of his memories pressing in, visions of laughter and warmth tainted by an unraveling bond. Was this woman here to remind them of all that had been lost? Or did she carry something that could help mend it? "Stop!" Marcus shouted, his voice trembling with a mixture of anger and desperation. "I don't care what he left behind. It doesn't matter anymore." "That's where you're wrong," she urged, her eyes pleading. "He loved you both more than you can imagine. I know you're angry, but there's so much you don't understand. He wanted to shield you, even from the truths that could wound you deeper." Nathaniel's breath caught as the memories surged, spilling out of attic boxes long buried under the weight of their pain. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown, threatening to reveal long-hidden secrets that had the power to destroy or heal. "Why should we believe you?" Lily interjected, her voice small but steady. "You just showed up out of nowhere. How do we know you're not lying?" "For years, I've carried this burden," the woman replied, emotions untangling in her voice. "I risked everything to come here. Your father, he failed to open up, to face the mistakes he made. But there's redemption still available for you, too. I want to help you uncover the truth." Before Nathaniel could process the weight of her words, Marcus erupted, "Why now? Why didn't you come sooner?" The hurt layered beneath each syllable was palpable, their family fractures exposed like raw nerves. "Because I didn't know if it was right," she admitted, tears shimmering in her wide eyes. "But I couldn't stand by while you fought each other over ghosts." A silence fell heavy over them, the kind that echoed with possibilities, unspoken emotions swirling in the shadows. Nathaniel felt the bristle of vulnerability creeping into the edges of his heart. Was it too late for them to choose a different path? Could they still confront their painful inheritance? Nathaniel began, but his voice faltered. The clarity eluded him. Every person standing there was wrestling with their own demons, their own throes of pain and desire for connection. The fear of the unknown gnawed at him, but he was anchored by the fragile thread of hope that still glimmered within their chaos. As if sensing his turmoil, Celeste stepped closer, firmly squeezing his hand once again. "Perhaps this woman is right. We deserve to know. Only then can we decide what to do with that truth." But before anyone could react, a rustling from the edge of the clearing drew their attention once more. Nathaniel's heart raced as he caught sight of a figure lurking in the dark, a familiar silhouette wrapped in shadows. "Mia?" he called out, voice uncertain as dread churned in his stomach. She stepped into the light, her face pale but determined, eyes wild as she looked at the woman who had just revealed so much pain. "Get away from her!" Mia shouted, pointing an accusatory finger, shaking with emotion. "I don't trust you. None of us do." "Mia!" Nathaniel exclaimed, the surge of panic igniting like wildfire. "What are you doing?" But Mia remained resolute, standing her ground as she backed toward them. "No. You don't understand. She's lying, just like the rest of them. We can't let her twist the truth. Stop. Please." Lily whimpered, the innocent plea echoing in the thickened air, revealing the cracks in their foundation. At that moment, the air charged with tension, and Nathaniel could feel the turmoil manifesting a powerful storm of fear, uncertainty, and the desperate need for connection. Was Mia right to protect them? Or was this yet another moment they could let slip through their fingers, a chance, however frail, to mend the scars of their shared past? As anger and fear threatened to consume the clearing, Nathaniel's heart pounded fiercely against his ribcage. Would he have the courage to delve into the cracks of their family legacy, or would they remain shackled to the pain that defined them? With every heartbeat, he felt time slipping away. Would this collision of truth set them free or shatter them irrevocably? As new challenges loomed over the horizon, Nathaniel realized that the path ahead was clouded yet again, hanging in the balance of choices none of them could make alone. The world around me seemed to crumble in slow motion as I faced my brother, the weight of years of silent heartache pressing down on my chest. Marcus stood firm, fury radiating from him like heat from a fire, and I felt the old wounds surge again, throbbing with each heartbeat. Would we really allow pain to define us, to cloud this moment one last time? Was it worth risking everything yet again? It doesn't matter what he left behind, Marcus spat, his voice intermingled with rage and despair. The fractures in our family history exposed raw nerves, and I had a decision to make, to fight against the turbulence or allow it to swallow me whole. But then, as if summoned by a wave of collective resolve, I remembered Lily standing behind Meher's small frame, a flicker of innocence, a bridge between worlds we never thought we'd inhabit. Life, with all its complexities, evolved around her, a reminder of love and hope, and I couldn't let this moment unravel before her. Everyone needs to stop. I finally bellowed, surprising even myself with the strength behind the words. This isn't just about the past, it's about the future. I won't let fear control any more of our lives. Not when we have a chance to mend what's broken. My voice rang out, my heart racing against the tide of emotions flooding my mind. The eyes of everyone present shifted towards me, and in that charged silence, I found my anchor Celeste's hand pressed against mine, her warmth reminiscent of quiet assurance. "We're all hurting," I said, my voice softer now yet imbued with a fierce determination. "And that hurts will always be part of us. But the question is, what do we do with those wounds? Do we let them poison our future, or do we embrace them so we can heal together?" At that moment, everything hung in the air, the unspoken burdens, unfinished stories, tangled in the countless threads of despair and hope. I could feel the tension between Marcus and me, the unyielding force of resentment and love. "It's not about just me or you. It's about Lily, it's about redefining what we can be together. She deserves more than the weight of our past." Marcus' expression flickered then, a moment of vulnerability piercing the armor he had built. Suddenly, the revelation hit us all, echoing from the lips of the woman who had come to offer the truth. "Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means moving forward," she said quietly, her words settling heavily within the trembling air. Lily tightened her hold on my arm and nodded at Marcus. "You could be my friend," she said, breaking through the underlying tension, her innocence igniting a glimmer of hope amid the chaos. Her words cut through Marcus like a gust of wind through a long-forgotten path. The tension softened in his features for the briefest of moments, as if he was finally confronting the possibility of change. He began, but no more words followed, as if the weight of countless years hung thick in the air. "Please, Marcus," I urged, stepping closer. "You don't have to keep carrying this alone. None of us do. You can lean on us now, as a family. It's okay to let that weight off your shoulders." And in that moment of vulnerability and clarity, the past began to fracture, just enough to let a ray of light pierce through the shadows, illuminating the fractures that had clung to our family for so long. "Can we start again?" The tremor in Marcus' voice held the same earnestness Lily had exhibited, giving me a lifeline of hope as tears pricked at my eyes. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was grace to be found among the ruins scattered around my heart. Before I could respond, everything shifted within the clearing as the arrival of Mia began to resonate again. "You can't trust her," she shouted, wresting the storm's focus back onto our unrelenting circumstance. "She's trying to manipulate us." It stung, cutting through what closeness we had begun to find. But before I could react, the woman confronted Mia. "I'm not here to manipulate anyone," she said, her voice warm but firm. "You have to believe that families can be messy, but love is always the answer. It's how we embrace the past that will." Determine our future. A quiet moment fell between us, and I could sense the silent debate raging in Mia's eyes as she weighed the earnestness behind those words. Lily stepped in front of Mia, unyielding. "I trust them," she said, the purity of her heart radiating confidence amidst the doubt swirling around us. "And it's okay to trust again. We can still choose to be friends even if it's hard." It was an echo of unity, a reminder that love always had a path forward. And as the sunlight filtered through the trees above us, I felt an unexpected warmth wash over me, binding us together in a way that we had never thought possible. Gathering my breath, I turned toward Marcus and allowed my voice to slip into an almost whisper. He was our father. He loved us. And I believe if we can just begin to let that love guide us instead of the pain, we can finally break free. For the first time, Marcus stepped back, as if struck by the realization, processing everything from his past, a culmination of emotions threatening to break free. And I realized then that the past didn't have to steal our future. "Please, let's choose that together," I urged as a glimmer of understanding began to flicker between us. As the silence settled around us, I could feel everything shift, memories swirling like leaves caught in the autumn wind, broken pieces intermingling, creating a tapestry of who we could still become. Finally, Marcus nodded, and in that moment, something deep shifted in the atmosphere, the weight almost palpable lifting off our shoulders like a heavy fog vanishing into sunlight. As our eyes met, I recognized the hope sparking in his own. The rest melted away as I turned to Lily, who looked up at me with wide eyes shining with pride and strength. It felt impossibly fragile, but it was there, love wrapped around each of us, pulsing with the quiet yet resolute truth that healing was not merely a choice, it was our path forward. And then I spoke the words that would forever echo through the corridors of my heart, a proclamation, a promise. Together we will rediscover what it means to love, to heal, and to forge a life built on all that we are, rather than who we have lost. And in that moment, as we began to step into the light beyond the shadows, I knew we had forged a bond that could not be broken, a family united by our choices rather than our past. As I looked into that bright horizon, it struck me, love wasn't just a place to hold on to, it was a choice we made anew every single day. And as we walked onward, the first light of a brand new dawn kissed our faces with hope. This was where we began again.